All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little Super Bowl preview early before, with 2 weeks to spare. We'll take a quick look at the Super Bowl. February 11th in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. The Niners representing the NFC, the Kansas City Chiefs representing the AFC. A rematch from Super Bowl 54. 4 years after Kansas City knocked off the 49ers in Miami, 31-20. The Niners are back in the Super Bowl seeking revenge against Kansas City as they play in Vegas for Super Bowl 58. All right, let's talk a little bit about this matchup. Then we'll get into what I think are two key factors to watch for in this game. First of all, there are 14 players that are still on these rosters from 4 years ago, which seems like a really low number. But yeah, it's 14 total players that played in Super Bowl 54 will be playing in Super Bowl 58. On the Niners side, it's Kyle Juszczyk, it's George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, and the last but certainly not least, Mitch Wishnowsky. So 8 49ers are going to be playing against the Chiefs in this Super Bowl who played last time. And then for the Chiefs, Travis Kelce, McCole Hardman, who left and came back, Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, Derek Nottie, and Harrison Butker. So they have 6 and the Niners have 8. That tells you all you need to know about how quickly the dial turns as far as personnel in the NFL. That was only 4 years ago. And the Niners and the Chiefs were two of the younger, more up-and-coming teams at the time. And here we are 4 years later. The Niners have 8 players from that team still on the 53, and the Chiefs have 6. So Mahomes has 2 Super Bowl rings, and he's looking for number 3. Kansas City is in their 4th Super Bowl in the last 5 years. The Niners, as a franchise, are going to their 8th Super Bowl. They went 5-0, and now they've lost 2 in a row. They lost to the Ravens in New Orleans, and they lost to the Chiefs in Miami. So the Niners are in their 8th Super Bowl with a 5-2 record. The 49ers are a slim favorite, 1.5 to 2-point favorite, depending where you look, to win this game. The Niners have reached the NFC title game 7 times since 2011, and yet they have 0 Super Bowls to add to the trophy case to show for those 7 appearances in the NFC Championship game just since 2011. So the Niners are hungry as a franchise to win this game. This will change the career of Jed York, John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, Parag Marathe. These guys are made men in their world if they can just climb this final step and climb this hurdle. You can also make an argument that if Brock Purdy wins this game, he'll never be called a game manager again. Never again. He'll always get that respect. And I kind of compare where Brock Purdy's at right now to where Joe Montana was at in 84 when he took on Miami. Now that player, Joe Montana, had already won a Super Bowl where Brock has not. But so much of the dialogue going into Super Bowl 19, Niners-Dolphins at Stanford, was that Joe was a product of Walsh's system. And Joe was a product of the talent around him. And Joe was just Johnny on the spot in the right place at the right time. And that really Dan Marino was the better quarterback, and that he would prove it on Super Bowl Sunday. And what did Joe Montana do? He went out and he won the Super Bowl MVP. He won that game decisively with a better defense, by the way, over the Dolphins. Roger Craig had 3 touchdowns on the day. And from that point on, nobody ever questioned Joe Montana again. He would go on to win 2 more Super Bowls with the 49ers, but he was a made man after Super Bowl 19. Never again was he ever thought to be the product of Walsh's system. He outdueled Marino in the biggest game, and he never looked back as far as being an iconic Super Bowl quarterback who was judged by his own talents and not in any way connected to Walsh. So here we are, 29 years since the 49ers have won a Super Bowl, and they're back in it against the Kansas City Chiefs, looking for that 6th Lombardi. And the Niners are enormously talented. They have 9 Pro Bowlers, the most of any team in the NFL. 49ers have 7 players that were either first team or second team All-Pros. And they went 12-5, and they won those 12 games by an average of 19 points per game. They blew out a lot of teams this year. And if you looked at the Niners and the Chiefs strictly from a point differential perspective, you'd say that the Niners are the better team. The 49ers were plus 193 this year on the point differential, where the Chiefs were plus 77. So that's a big difference in point differential. But Kansas City has had the Niners number, and they beat them when they last played at Levi's in October of 2022 by 3 touchdowns. And Patrick Mahomes did whatever he wanted. And, Andy Reid has gotten the upper hand on Kyle Shanahan, especially in the red zone. He's been an incredible play caller. The 49ers have never beaten Patrick Mahomes, ever. In his career, he's never lost to the 49ers. So the Chiefs are trying to go back-to-back. They won the Super Bowl last year over Philadelphia. The Patriots, nearly 2 decades ago, were the last team to actually go and win back-to-back Super Bowls. So for Patrick Mahomes, he's a Hall of Famer already, and he's the youngest quarterback ever. He will be on Super Bowl Sunday to start 4 Super Bowls. So let's go to the 2 matchups that I think really are interesting. One favors the Niners, and the other favors Kansas City. All right, let's start with the one that favors the 49ers. The Kansas City Chiefs are not the exact same team that they were when the Niners played them in 2022, let alone when they played in the Super Bowl 4 years ago in Miami. This Chiefs team struggled to score points. They led the league in drops. Their wide receivers had over 25 drops. They really struggled. Tyreek Hill is no longer here. He's in Miami. He's moved on. Their number 1 wide receiver is Rashee Rice, the rookie from SMU. The other receivers have been hugely disappointing. Justin Ross, ex-Niner Richie James, Kadarius Toney, Mecole Hardman, Justin Watson, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Sky Moore. These guys have been hugely disappointing. They've dropped a lot of passes. The Chiefs have struggled to score points. The Chiefs have one of the NFL's best interior offensive lines from left to right. Joe Thuney at left guard, though he was hurt and may still be hurt in this game. Nick Allegretti, who's a good friend of mine, is the left guard, former Illini star. He's been in that organization for years. He's a versatile backup. He's got a lot of talent. Creed Humphrey, a second-round pick in the 2021 draft, is the starting center. He's one of the best in football. And then Trey Smith, the former, I believe, Tennessee Volunteer right guard. He's at right guard. He was a 6th-round pick in 2021 after a stellar career in Knoxville. That interior is the strength of Kansas City's offensive line. And so they like to run the ball, not just between the tackles. They like to run the ball in the A-gaps between the guards. And when it gets right down to it, they showed in the Ravens game, they believe that they can run the ball inside with, between in either A-gap, either Creed Humphrey's left or right shoulder. That's where they want to run when the money's on the table, inside in the A-gaps with Isaiah Pacheco. Where they're weak is at tackle, Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor. And in this matchup, Jawan Taylor matches up with Nick Bosa. And Bosa is on top of his game. And he's been good in these playoffs. And he just had a couple of sacks. He had 5 quarterback hits in the Green Bay game, couple sacks in the Detroit game. Bosa's playing at a high level. And he goes up against Jawan Taylor. This is a major advantage for the 49ers. I would imagine they'll slide protection to try to help Taylor. They'll chip Bosa. They'll do anything they can to help Jawan Taylor, because Jawan Taylor had 20 penalties this year. That led the NFL by a country mile. To put that in perspective, the second place player as far as penalties in the NFL had 13. Jawan Taylor had 20. Now he gets Nick Bosa, who often draws penalties. This is going to be a major advantage for the 49ers. The Niner defensive ends against the very questionable tackle combo of Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor major advantage for the 49ers. And Kansas City's going to have to do something to negate that major advantage. Nick Bosa, if the Chiefs put Jawan Taylor opposite Nick Bosa all day, Bosa could be the MVP of this game. He could wind up with 3 or 4 sacks. He could wind up with 5 penalties in the game, all against Jawan Taylor. Taylor cannot handle Bosa without holding him, and the Chiefs won't be able to slow Bosa down if it's a one-on-one matchup. So expect them to use a back to chip. Expect them to slide the protection towards Taylor. Expect them to try to combo block him and leave another blocker on that side of the formation just to deal with Nick Taylor. Or Nick Bosa. So that's a major, major advantage for the 49ers is Nick Bosa against Jawan Taylor. All right, let's talk about the Chiefs' advantage. The Chiefs' main advantage, I think, is the fact that they are really good at running outside the tackles with Isaiah Pacheco. And the 49ers are struggling to defend the run outside. And this is where I think I'd like to see a lot of Javon Kinlaw in this game, because what's happening here is that the key guys, the Niners have speed to pursue to the outside. It's not about lack of speed. They've got tremendous speed on defense, but it's can the interior Niner defensive tackles absorb the offensive linemen and keep them off of Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw so they can't climb to that second level and pick those guys off. The Niners need Greenlaw and Warner to be big, big run defenders against Isaiah Pacheco when he tries to run inside or outside. So we saw it against Green Bay. We saw it against Detroit. Both of their lines were able to get an angle on Warner, get an angle or a body on Greenlaw, and suddenly it's Logan Ryan and Tayshaun Gibson with lots of space trying to make solo tackles on, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Aaron Jones, and in this game, Isaiah Pacheco. So what the Chiefs are going to try to do is they're going to try to run wide and cut back. So they're going to try to get to the edges, make the 49ers spread out, get their interior linemen to climb to the second level to pick off the middle backer, and they're going to try to run wide and have Pacheco cut it back for big gains. He's 215 pounds, but he's got 4.3 speed, and if you give him a crease, he's gone. Think of it this way. You had the speed of Aaron Jones, then you had the speed of Jahmyr Gibbs, and both of those speedy backs gave the Niners problems. Then you had Montgomery, who had the tremendous power and cutting ability, but he didn't quite have the speed. Now you've got a player in Isaiah Pacheco who's kind of a blend of all 3 of those backs. He's got the quickness and speed of a Jahmyr Gibbs, but he's got a little bit more heft, kind of like a David Montgomery. He's between 215 and 220, Pacheco is, and he can run over you, but he can also make a quick cut it back, and run by you. And that's where the 49ers really have to be good. Jair Brown and Tayshaun Gibson need to be on point. They need to be very disciplined in their run fits. They're really going to need to try to get as many hats as they possibly can on Pacheco in the run game. And maybe more than ever, the 49ers need to play Javon Kinlaw inside. Why? Because more so than Givens and more so than Sebastian Joseph Day, Kinlaw has the ability to occupy blockers. He has the strength to absorb offensive linemen and keep Warner and Greenlaw's legs free to run and hit and tackle. And in this game against the outside zone, it is going to be absolutely critical that Kinlaw plays a hell of a game, that he plays a lot of snaps inside, and that him and Hargrave keep bodies off of Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. And so it's not Gibson and Jair Brown or Pacheco's going the distance. The Niners need to keep Warner and Greenlaw on their feet and try to protect them from Creed Humphrey and the 2 guards by having Kinlaw absorb blocks up front. It's absolutely critical. Javon Kinlaw can absolutely have a huge hand in the 49ers winning this game by occupying Creed Humphrey and the chief guards, keeping them off of Greenlaw and Warner, letting Greenlaw and Warner flow laterally and stop Isaiah Pacheco either from the edge or cutbacks off the edge. Now, I love Jair Brown, and I would definitely play him over Logan Ryan. And Gibson is going to be a huge part of the run stop unit as well. But it's Kinlaw up front protecting Greenlaw and Warner, which is going to be absolutely the key to stopping Kansas City's run game. If the Niners are going to beat Kansas City, they got to stop that run game. They can't allow Mahomes to have play action at his disposal all day. They've got to stop Pacheco and make Mahomes throw the ball to somebody other than Travis Kelce. And if they do that, they got a shot to win. But Javon Kinlaw protecting Greenlaw and Warner against the, getting picked off in the run game is going to be one of the major keys for the 49ers on Super Bowl Sunday. All right, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.